What'd you do?
We're not gonna make it.
We're gonna make it. Ah! See? Told you it'd work.
Good morning. Hi. Welcome to Parkview. We are so glad that you're here. I want to say hi to all of the people watching from our campuses, Homer Glen, New Lenox, Orland Park, online. If you just didn't want to come to church and it's a Tuesday and you're watching this, hello to you as well. I'm Casey. I'm one of the pastors here, and I'm excited to be with you as a part of this series called Hinge Moments, where we're talking about the life of David. I realize I've been here for about 15 years, and I've never really told the story of how I got here, which is kind of an interesting story because it's a hinge moment in my life. I was at another church, and I'd been there for about 5 years, and I just got to that point, and I don't know if you've gotten to this point with your job and your work where you're like, I'm out. I need to do either something else or nothing else preferably, but if I could do something else, that would be great. So I was in the sanctuary, the worship area of our church, and I was having a conversation with Swedish Jesus. You don't know who Swedish Jesus is. Swedish Jesus is this guy. This is a painting done by a Swedish painter of Swedish descent. He's actually from Chicago, and it was hanging in the back of our church. And so I'm standing up at the front, and I'm talking with Swedish Jesus, and I said, look, I'm done. I'm out here. I got nothing left. I might go just do anything else other than be a pastor. Something's got to change here. And then that week, I got an email from someone named Hayden from Parkview. And the challenge was, have you ever gotten an email and the people put the whole content of the email on the subject line? Like it was and I'm like, what kind of psychopath? And it's just, everything was right on the subject line, and it said, we have a job at Parkview, I'd like to talk to you about it. Please give me a call if you're interested. And there was this phone number. That was all on the subject line. And I thought, if I contact this person, this will either be the most interesting phone call I've ever had, or it could be something that radically changes my whole life. And so I did. I called him, and after multiple conversations and interviews, it brought me here, which was such a wonderful thing, and it's been an incredible, wonderful thing for my life and for my family's life. It was a hinge moment for me. It was one of those moments. Hinge moments are those times when we know something has to change, and we know we can't go back to the way things used to be, but we have no idea what it's going to look like moving forward. And one of the things that I'm learning about these hinge moments in our lives is this. At our hinge moments, we need other people, whether they're putting the whole email in the subject line or whether there's somebody else. At these hinge moments, we need other people. Here's what I know about a room like this. Some of you are going through your own hinge moments right now. You've received a diagnosis that now you have to do something with. You're starting a new life being married, or you're trying to save your marriage. You're getting a new job, or you got a new job that has so much promise, or you are trying to understand why you're losing that job that you thought was going to be the thing that carried you forward. You're battling addiction. You're newly sober, or you're hanging on for dear life to your sobriety. You're starting a new life of faith. Or maybe you're deconstructing your faith and trying to figure out how it all fits together. All of us are going through hinge moments, moments that change everything. We cannot go back to the way things used to be, but we have no idea what it's going to look like going forward. But there's also something else going on as we do that. I was reading some statistics as I was getting ready for this message, and this is one of the ones that I found. A 2021 survey by the American Survey Center found that the percentage of men with 6 or more close friends dropped from 55% in 1990 to just 27% in 2021. The rate of men with no close friends rose 5-fold from 3% to 15%. A study in 2024 by the Survey Center on American Life found that only 26% of men reporting having 6 or more close friends. This is not just a guy thing. Now, if you're a guy, you know this is true. I know this is true. Having close friends is extremely difficult. But it's not just a guy thing. We as a culture and a society are going through a loneliness epidemic. We are lonelier now than maybe we've ever been at this point in our history. And sometimes there's good reasons for that. Don't get me wrong. Because people are people, right? They let us down. They betray us. And man, sometimes our screens are just way more dependable. And yet, we go through these hinge moments in our lives, and at these hinge moments, we need other people. If we are going to survive at these hinge moments, we need other people. So what I want to do today is walk you through a story from David's life that I've never preached on and I've never heard anybody else preach on, so we're blazing new ground here. And this story from David's life is about David and his friend Jonathan. Now, what I'd love for you to do as we do this, and we're just going to walk through it together, one of the great things about the stories in the Bible is that you and I get to look at them and go, where would I fit in this? So I'm encouraging you as we do this today to try and find your place in this particular story. David and Jonathan. I want to give you a big picture snapshot, and then we're going to go through some very specific things. Is that okay? If it's not, that's all I've got. So we're doing it. I got the mic. We're doing it anyway. Here we go. So let's talk about David for a second. David, at the time we're talking about, Saul is the king of Israel. Saul is the king of Israel at the time. But at that moment, at that same time, David has been anointed to be king by the same prophet who anointed Saul. At that time, kings aren't elected. They're anointed by God himself. So I want you to imagine there's a guy who's already king, and then the prophet goes, yeah, we're going to go a different direction. And he goes and anoints a little kid who's been raising sheep for most of his life and says, yeah, this guy is going to be king. If you're king then, how do you react to that? Not well. We're going to talk about that more here in a second. David himself is actually a war hero. He's fought in Saul's armies, and if you were in the series with us, you know that he defeated a giant named Goliath. And Saul suddenly becomes, not suddenly, but Saul is incredibly jealous of David's notoriety and his success. So now, not only is this guy, this kid, been anointed king, but now he's making the real king, the current king, super annoyed because David is really good at what he does. And finally, David is actually faithful. He said, Saul, you're my king. I'm going to serve you. I'm going to serve in your army. I'm going to acknowledge you as king. And yet at the same time, David just can't stop being David. The Bible tells us he is ruddy and handsome, and he's successful in battle. You want to talk about a recipe for being jealous of somebody. He's better looking than you, and he's better at his job than you are, Saul. So that sets up David. That's where David is at this time. And then we look at Jonathan. Jonathan's actually a warrior in his own right, and he fights alongside his father Saul. He is Saul's kid. He has some of the same characteristics as David. He's got kind of this like us against the world, very courageous, sometimes a little bit too courageous, and he breaks some rules here and there. But he is the son of the king. So if you've watched Game of Thrones or if you know medieval history, the kid of the king should be next in line to be king, right? But what about David? What about David? What happens next? Jonathan should be next in line, but what about David? This should lead to these guys not being friends. This should lead, if nothing else, to the most awkward friendship in the history of ever. But that's not what happens. At the end of Jonathan's life, when Jonathan dies in battle, this is what David says about him. I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. Greatly beloved were you to me. Your love, I want you to listen to this. Your love to me was wonderful, passing the love of women. This is not an awkward relationship. These are two people who are deeply, deeply connected. Now, David, it's really important for you to understand, most of the marriages at that time were arranged, so not a lot of love was going on there. And also, David was married to multiple women. If you have questions about that, you can email Todd. David was married to multiple women, so he knows a little bit about this love of women kind of thing. And what it's saying here is that these guys are not just two guys who their kids get off the bus at the same time. These are not two people who've just been thrown in the same fantasy league or just happen to be in the same place at the same time. There's this deep and powerful connection between David and Jonathan that's going to be really, really important moving forward. These guys are bigger than bros. There's something else going on here that's connecting them. And it will matter immensely because as David goes through the moments of his life that are most important for him to become king, Jonathan is there. So how does all this get started? So we know from the story, and if you don't know this, you can go back and watch the other sermons that we've been preaching. We know that David defeats Goliath. He gets a stone, he puts it in a little sling, right between the eyes. Goliath, this giant, this warrior goes down. David cuts his head off. Yeah, it's actually in there. And then he carries it around with him. If you're telling me that the Bible's not interesting, you need to read the Goliath story again. David's just walking around with Goliath's head all over the place, just showing everybody, check out what I did. After that happens, David goes and talks to Saul, the king, and tells him, hey, here's what I did. Saul's like, that's really great. We don't have to worry about that guy anymore. And then this happens. When David had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was bound to David. And Jonathan loved him as his own soul. With the same love and care and consideration Jonathan gave to himself, he now puts that on David. And then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as his own soul. Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that he was wearing and he gave it to David. And his armor and even his sword and his bow and his belt. This is a huge moment. They make a covenant. What is a covenant? A covenant is an agreement you make with another person based on love that says, I want the best for you. Marriage should be a covenant. Too many marriages are contracts where you give me what I want, I'll give you what you want. But marriage was meant to be a covenant. And this relationship is a covenant where David says, I am in it for your good. Jonathan says, yeah, me too. And it's driven by the kind of love that God intended for the world to run on. That's bigger than romance. That's bigger than friendship. It is, I will be there for you no matter what. I wonder if you've experienced that from someone in one of your relationships. Someone who is in it for your good no matter what. It's a powerful thing. It changes the way we see the entire world. And this is what happens between David and Jonathan. And we know that because when Jonathan takes this robe off, it's not just like he stole it from a hotel. This robe is his royal robe. It's the thing that says, I'm the kid of the king. And he hands it to David. He's basically saying, I want you to be king. You're the one who should do this. And I'm going to make sure that that happens. So here, take my robe. And then when he gives him his bow and his sword, his weapons, he says, and my efforts, my energy as a warrior will be there. I will support whatever it is that you're going to do. I will be in your corner. And he gives them to David. Have you had a person who's so in your corner that said, I will give you this. You've got my effort. You've got my energy. I'm right behind you. I'm in it for you. We're on the same team. This is an incredibly powerful relationship, and it's one of the things that's going to help see David through his Hinge moments, and for you and I, this is the kind of thing that will help us through. These are the kind of people that help us take the steps we need to take through the difficult situations and seasons that we face. Now, I wish I could say that it gets less awkward at this point, but you've met people, and it doesn't. David decides, hey, Saul hates me and is jealous of me. You know what would be a great idea? And actually, it's Saul's idea, which makes it a little stranger. He said, I'm just going to marry one of his daughters. So he marries into the family. Because nothing says, I want to destroy myself like marrying into a family where your father-in-law already hates you. And he's king. And he can kill you for no reason. So he marries one of Saul's daughters named Michal, and he continues, again, multiple wives. We don't know how many wives David had, so you can email Todd about that. He marries into this family, and then he continues to have military success. He continues to win battles. And it moves for Saul from annoyance to somebody's got to do something about David. And so Saul goes to Jonathan, his son, and he says, look, the moment has come. We got to kill David. He can't keep going. Now, Jonathan begins to feel that tug, like I've given my allegiance and my loyalty to this person. So he says, okay, all right. He goes and finds David. He goes, hey, David. He said, yeah. He goes, my dad. He goes, yeah, what's up with your dad? He's like, he's a lot. I get it. But he's even more now because he wants to kill you. But don't worry. I'm going to speak up for you. And David said, cool. Jonathan goes back to his father, and this is what he says. Jonathan spoke well of David to his father Saul, saying to him, the king should not sin against his servant David, because he has not sinned against you. Why would you kill this guy? He hasn't done anything to you. And because his deeds have been of good service to you. David makes you look good. Why would you do this? Can you hear Jonathan spinning this? Why would you kill this guy? He's making you look good. You keep winning battles. I mean, he does most of the work, but it really comes back on you. because he took his life in his hand when he attacked the Philistine, Goliath. And the Lord brought about a great victory for all of Israel. God is on his side too. Why would you kill this guy? You saw it and you rejoiced. You were there and you loved it. Why then will you sin against an innocent person by killing David without cause? In our Hinge moments, we need somebody like this who's going to go and speak up for us. We need somebody who is going to go to bat for us. Jonathan goes to bat for David because he knows David has got to be king, and I'm on his side. And the best way I can do that is to spin this to my dad, where it'd be a really bad idea to kill him. In our Hinge moments, when we're trying to become what it is that God has meant for us to be, we need those kind of people. I had that kind of person too to help me get here as well. There was a woman named Paula that I went to seminary with. And she knew me really well, and she's the one who actually recommended that I get that really strange email. It was because of her that my name got to Hayden, that got to here. She spoke up for me. She spoke well of me. If we're going to survive the Hinge moments of our life, we need somebody who's going to go to bat for us like that. Someone who is going to look out for our interests. Someone who's going to speak up for us to help us move forward. Somebody who will shut down a rumor about us that isn't true when we're not there. You with me? Somebody who will give up an opportunity that they have because they know it's better for us. Somebody who will listen and think about what's good for us and go and try and make that happen. Somebody who will hope for us when we start to lose hope. You with me? Somebody who will speak well of us when we talk about ourselves like a dog. We need those people who will go to bat for us to make it through our Hinge moments, because at our Hinge moments, we need other people to go with us, to put their energy behind us, to be our cheerleader, but also to speak well of us when those moments come. Because what happens next in the David and Jonathan story is probably one of the most heartbreaking things. These two guys are fused. They have a deeper love than they can possibly imagine for each other. They have entered into a deep, deep relationship where they are supporting each other, and Jonathan knows David being king is the best thing that could possibly happen. But Saul just doesn't give up on wanting to kill David, and it finally gets to the point where they both know this is not going to end well if David sticks around. They both know that what's about to happen is going to be incredibly expensive. And so Saul plots to kill David, but he doesn't tell Jonathan because he's starting to figure it out. I think my son is on his side. So Jonathan gets wind of it, and he goes to tell David. And David says to him, therefore, since we know what we know, deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought your servant into a sacred covenant with you. David is basically saying, look, help me, because this is it. This is the last chapter. If I don't make it through this, I'm not going to make it at all. I wonder if you've ever felt that way. This is the end. If I don't make it through this, I may not make it through at all. And at that moment, David and Jonathan both know what's going to happen next is going to be extremely expensive. It's going to cost both of them something. And sometimes that's what happens in our relationships, and especially in our Hinge moments. We get to the point where it costs us something to move forward. Jonathan's going to have to choose between his dad and the kingship and his family and the person he loves more than anything else. David is going to have to choose between staying alive and being king one day and the person he loves more than his own life. Whatever the cost, they were going through it, ride or die. No matter what. And of course, Saul has now found out that Jonathan's on David's side. So when Jonathan goes to talk to his dad, this time, here's what happens. But Saul threw his spear at Jonathan to strike him. So Jonathan knew, I love this, like it's obvious now. Jonathan knew that it was the decision of his father to put David to death. If there was any question, Saul just answered it by saying, I'm willing to kill you and him. This is where we're at. Now, this is one of those moments I need to do a little public service announcement. Sometimes we think because things are in the Bible, we get to do them. I don't care how bad your kids have been. You cannot throw a spear at them. But if you don't leave with anything else, do not throw spears at your kids. I don't care what they've been up to. At that moment, David and Jonathan both knew David wasn't going to survive this if he stayed, if he stuck around. But if he left, he would be leaving the person he was closest to. He'd be leaving something behind that he loved and cared about. I can't imagine how hard that must have been. Can you? Have you ever had to let somebody go? Maybe there was a friendship that was good for a season, but now you've gone your separate ways, and you were so close, and now it's time to let it go. Or maybe there's something within your relationship that you have to let go of, an assumption, something that you depended on, but that's not going to be there. But for the good of moving forward, it's something we have to let go of. Maybe you've been somebody's corner, their cheerleader, behind them, speaking well of them, and you know the best thing for them would be for you to let them go. This is a heartbreaking moment for David and Jonathan, and sometimes at our Hinge moments, there are heartbreaking moments for us as well. But we need those kind of people, because even if it hurts at our Hinge moments, we need other people who will be our cheerleaders, who will be on our side, who will speak well of us, but also will know how to let us go or let other things go between us. So they get a plan together. And I was trying to figure out a way to talk about this in like modern terms. But Jonathan apparently is really into archery. And so would go out in the field and shoot arrows. I guess this would be like going to a driving range. I don't know. Just pick your own metaphor. You guys can do the work. It's fine. Jonathan says, I'm going to go out and shoot some arrows. David, I want you to go hide in the field. After I talk to my dad, I'm going to go out and shoot some arrows. You go hide in the field. And when my servant goes to pick up the arrows, by the way, wouldn't you love a servant to go pick up your arrows for you? And do whatever you want. If he's going to get arrows, he'll go do anything else you want. Anyway, he says, I'm going to shoot some arrows. I'm going to send my servant to go get them. If I say, hey, come closer, they're back here, you know, David, that you're safe. It means my dad's not going to kill you. But if I tell my servant, go long, it means it's over. And it means you have to run. So Jonathan goes out to the field and he cues some arrows and he shoots them. And he tells his servant, go long. And David hears this and he knows it's over. The person I love the most in the world, who I've given my soul to, I can't be with them. I can't be around them anymore. If I'm going to be king, if I'm going to survive, I have to keep moving. I have to go on. So David, after the servants left, he comes out of hiding and he goes and he talks to Jonathan. And it says this, David bowed 3 times and they kissed each other and they wept with each other. And David wept the more. Then Jonathan said to David, go in peace, since both of us have sworn in the name of the Lord, saying, the Lord shall be between you and me, and between my descendants and your descendants forever. David got up and left, and Jonathan went into the city. Isn't that heartbreaking? They've fought for each other. They've bled with each other. They've sweated with each other. They've spoke well for each other. And this moment, for Jonathan to support David, he has to let him go so that he can be king, so that he can be what God had meant for him to be. The people who God uses most in our Hinge moments are the ones who most definitely are our cheerleaders and who will speak well of us, but who also know how to help us learn to let things go. And sometimes it's not each other. Sometimes it's stuff between us. Back during the pandemic lockdowns, y'all remember that? The only thing that we could really do, my wife and I, was go on walks. And so we would go walk through the forest preserve, and it was interesting. Every day was different. So one day we'd go walking, and I would say, I think everything's going to be fine. And she would say, I think everything is on fire. And the next day we'd go for another walk, and she'd say, I think everything's going to be fine. And I was like, oh, no, this is the end of everything. Everything's on fire. Everything is terrible. Everything is awful. And what was happening for us is that our world was changing in all so many ways, in all so many different ways, and we were helping each other let go of what used to be. This was a Hinge moment for all of us. And we had to let go of some stuff that we thought would always be true, and now we had to move forward and speak well of each other and be each other's cheerleaders as we moved into this next thing that we had no idea what was coming. And we had to keep telling each other, we're going to get through this. I wonder, could you use someone who would come to you and say, we're going to get through this? Some questions for us today. Who's your Jonathan? Who's that person that's your cheerleader, that speaks well of you, that will help you let go of stuff if you need to? Who is your Jonathan? Who is that person that's coming alongside of you and helping you with that? And who's the David in your life? Who's the person that you're their cheerleader? You're speaking well of them. You're coming alongside of them. You're helping them let go of things. Bring that person to mind, because it's so important, because all of us are either in the middle of a Hinge moment or helping somebody else go through some sort of change. And we need to realize where we are in that. Now, at this point, knowing that we're in a culture, an epidemic of loneliness, it would be really great if I could give you the 3 easy steps to making Jonathan kind of friends. If I could say to you for 3 easy payments of $19.95, you too could have a Jonathan. But I don't have that answer. There's no Bible answer for how you make friends, because it's us. We're complicated. We have complicated stories, and we're around complicated people. And I know some of you are in the deepest, darkest loneliness you've ever been in. You've been looking for a spouse or a friend or just someone who understands you. And I understand that, and I get that. And my prayer is that you will find that person. But in times like this, I don't have an easy answer for how you make friends, but there is something that I know, and I want to share that with you. A few weeks ago, we had a worship night at the new Lenox campus, and I was able to teach a little bit. And I was talking about how the most radical thing that Jesus ever said isn't what you think it is. Jesus said, your sins are forgiven. That is a beautiful and wonderful thing, but that's not the most radical thing Jesus ever said. Jesus said there is life after the life that we're living right now, which is amazing and beautiful, but it's not the most radical thing Jesus ever said. The most radical thing Jesus ever said was, God is with you and you are with him. Every second of every minute, of every hour, of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year, God is with you and you are with him. If you want to live like that's true, you are never alone. So in the middle of a loneliness epidemic, when making friends is so stinking hard, there's a promise that Jesus makes that says, at every minute, of every moment, of every hour, of every Hinge moment of your life, God is with you and you can be with him. Jesus says to his disciples, you will know that I am in my Father. I am with God and you are with me and I am with you. Every minute of every second of every moment of every Hinge moment of your life, you are never alone if you embrace this. He said, so embrace it. And he invites them and he says, abide with me, in me, and I will abide in you. Abide means to remain or dwell. Put your address there, get your mail there, stay with me, be with me, and I will be with you at every moment of every minute of every Hinge moment of your life. Because in our Hinge moments, we need other people, and Jesus says, I will be that person. I have given up everything to be with you. You are God's beloved kids in whom he's well pleased, and you never have to be alone. So would you like to not be alone? As you look for your Jonathan, you don't have to be alone. I will be with you, and you can be with me. And not just as my employees. I think we get locked into this thing where God just wants us to work for him. We're not God's employees. Jesus says, I don't call you servants any longer because the servant does not know what the master is doing. Y'all know what I'm up to because I've called you friends. Because I've made known to you everything that I've heard from my Father, the biggest of which being, God is with you and you can be with him. Do you want that? For some of us in our loneliness and in our Hinge moments as we're trying to do this by ourselves, Jesus invites us to a friendship that's deeper than anything we can possibly imagine. It says, do you want to be with me? Because I'm always going to be with you. I'll always be with you no matter what. It will not be easy. It will not always be rainbows and puppies and sprinkles and all that stuff. But it will be good, and you will never be alone. One of the ways maybe that you could start that today, if you're hearing that and you're like, yeah, I'm tired of being alone, and I've heard this thing about God being with me, but I've never really stepped into it. One of the ways you can step into that is through baptism. We believe that baptism is the beginning. It's a lot of things, and that's a whole different sermon. But one of the things that baptism is the beginning of a new friendship, a new relationship, a new way of being with God. And you can do that today. No matter what campus you're at, you can do that today. So if that's something you're interested in being in that deep and abiding friendship where you are never alone, you can do that today. We've got clothes, we've got towels, we've got all of that stuff. There's a Next Steps booth outside in the foyer. Go there and say, hey, today I want to do this. I want to do this because we're ready to do that. If you're not ready today, that tap tag on the back of your seat, you can just tap that with your phone and fill out a form saying, hey, I'm interested in not going through these Hinge moments by myself anymore. I invite you to do that because one of the things that we do when we baptize people is we do this confession that says, I believe that Jesus is the Christ. If you don't know this already, Christ is not Jesus' last name, it's a title. It means king. And basically what we're saying in baptism is, I am tired of being the king of my own life because I stink at it. I've never been good at it. I'm never going to be good at it. And Jesus says, I am. I'm the best at it. And if you walk with me, I'll show you who you have always meant to be, who God made you to be. Through all of your Hinge moments, I will be with you. So consider that today. Here's the other thing I invite you to do. Take out your phone, if you got one. You all got one, come on. I mean, some of you don't have one, and that's fine. I admire your discipline. Some of you already have your phone out, so just pick it up a little bit. There's no NFL on right now, except for the game in Spain, but I understand that. You might be watching that one. If there's somebody in your life who has been your Jonathan, who has come alongside you and has spoken well of you and has been your cheerleader, do this right now. Send them a text and thank them. Thank you for coming alongside of me. Thank you for speaking well of me. Thank you for being on my side. Thank you for the ways that you've helped me learn how to sacrifice so that I can be the person God made me to be. Take a moment now. This is church-sponsored texting. Come on. Just send that person a text. And maybe also, if there's somebody that you know is your David, like there's somebody that you're encouraging, they've invited you, whether they know it or not, to be their encourager, and you're their cheerleader, and you're speaking well of them, and you're helping them through their Hinge moments, just send them a text and say, hey, I just want you to know, we got this. We might have to dodge some spears. You're going to have to explain that one to them. But I'm with you. I'm going to walk with you. I'm on your side. I'm on your team. I'll speak well of you so that you can go through this Hinge moment and become who God made you to be. In all of this, there's something that I invite you to know this as you leave. Jesus will never leave us alone in our Hinge moments, ever. But also, maybe, and my prayer for you is that you will have a Hayden or a Paula. And maybe, just maybe, you might even get yourself a David or a Jonathan who comes alongside with this deep and abiding love that helps carry you through. But no matter what, just know you are God's beloved kids in whom he's well pleased, and you never have to be alone. Jesus says to you, to me, to us, I will be with you, and you can be with me. Let's pray together. God, I'm grateful for the fact that you never leave us. I'm grateful for this time where we can talk about this openly. I'm grateful for my friends in this room who are going through Hinge moments of their own. And I pray that you would help them as they look for the kind of people who will be with them, who will support them and cheerlead for them and speak well of them and help them through. I pray that those people would show up. And if those people aren't there yet, would you help my friends to remember that you are always with them and they can always be with you and they will never be alone, no matter what challenge that they're facing. And help them, my friends who are thinking about taking a step of baptism and they're like, nah, it's too cold or it's too late or it's whatever. Would you help them to step over that line so that they may begin this new friendship with you today? We pray all of this in the name of Jesus. Amen.